Hello everyone, and welcome to Odoo Experience. I hope you've had a good day one so far. My name is Mathieu Germain. I am the MRP product owner at Odoo, and today I'm quite happy to share with you what has been done to manage work in progress in manufacturing for V18. So before I start, at the end of the talk, there will be a Q&A session. I'm already sharing the link to the pad right now, so that as I'm explaining a few things, and you come up with a few questions, don't hesitate to already write them down as we go. Don't worry, I will share it again at the end of the talk. And for any more advanced question, don't forget that there are also some MRP demo booths at the end of this room. So feel free to come and say hello. For the rest of the structure, it's going to be quite brief. First of all, we're going to talk about what we mean by work in progress exactly, how it can be valued. Since we're going to talk about work or manufacturing value, I'll use the opportunity of this talk to remind you how manufacturing valuation currently works in version 18, and in more general in manufacturing in Odoo in general. Then I will do a live demo of the new features, and then I will answer the questions of the pad. So let's start. So, work in progress, what is it? So in manufacturing, actually, it's very simple, very basic. It's the value of all of your ongoing productions. So it's the value of your partially finished goods. Typically, this is more relevant for a longer production life cycle. Let's say this morning I had a client who told me about one of his customers building a boat that lasts like 1 year. Quite a good example. Over this period of time, you are going to consume a wide range of components, raw materials, but also labor and overhead. We'll get back to that later. Why is it important, and why are we looking at this today? It's because essentially, ideally, this work in progress that you are building up over time, it should be recorded as an inventory asset in your accounting balance sheet. So, before we start, and to start, let's say, here are some back to basics valuation principles about manufacturing in Odoo. So, we haven't reinvented the wheel. Here, usually when you produce a final product, the value of that final product is the sum of two things. The materials that you put in, and note that in Odoo we support currently 4 different valuation methods for these materials. So we have AFCO, FIFO, standard cost, and now for version 18 we also have valuation per lot or serial number if you want to be even more precise. And then the second component of that final product valuation will be the labor that is typically divided into two things. Your fixed costs, your overheads, the cost of your machine, cost of electricity, gas, and so on. But also your employee costs, right? So you are paying wages for your employees to work on your different manufacturing projects. These employees have an hourly cost, and this will also be added to the value of your final product. In Odoo, to visualize these costs of a manufacturing order since V17, there is a very handy tool to do that. It's the MO overview, which is available from any manufacturing order that you have. So you go in any form view of your manufacturing order. And for, let's say we have the manufacture of a table here, it's going to compute the total cost of the manufacturing order, which is here in the real cost column at the top right of the screen, and then also a unit cost for the product that you have manufactured. Here we've just manufactured 1 unit, so it will be the same. So how is that total cost computed? It's using, first of all, the materials. So here in the M overview, we list all the materials with the quantities that have been used and their respective unit cost. And then we have the operations. So that's the second section of the M overview report. First of all, we have the overheads. So this is your fixed cost, as I mentioned before. How do you set that up? So on the work center, you have 2 sections. You have a cost per work center, a cost per employee. This fixed cost is the cost per work center field that you see over here. And then we have the final section of the MO overview, which is the employee cost. And it always has a separate line for every work center. And here, for instance, we see that Mitchell admin has spent 1 hour. His unit cost is his hourly rate is $100, and so in total, the employee cost for this MO is $100. And so, how do you set that up in Odoo? Odoo is actually going to use the real cost of the actual employee that has timesheeted on the MO. So to set that up, you go into the employee module, and if you go to the settings tab here of that module, you can set an hourly rate of your choice. That's it. And then to calculate the total operation cost, Odoo will simply add the overheads and the employee cost to also calculate a specific total operation cost. Right? So now that this has been established, and a small reminder for everyone so that we are all on the same page, what about WIP though? What about the work in progress? So the reason why I mentioned all of those details before is because actually the value of WIP is measured exactly in the same way, just with one difference, is that whereas before we were looking at a manufacturing order that had been done, the WIP, it's actually going to consider the value of all the manufacturing orders that have not yet been closed, right? So I think enough about the theory. Let's go into a demo. So for that, I have a version 18 database over here, and the use case that I would like to cover with you today is the manufacture of a tiny house. The manufacturer of that tiny house is going to be made up of some sub-assemblies that will need to be manufactured first before we have enough components for the actual house. And we will see how, with time, we can value these different assemblies. So, the first step is to create a manufacturing order for our final product. For that, I go into my manufacturing order list view, and I create a new manufacturing order from scratch. Right? Here we have selected the respective BOM for a product. We're going to create one quantity, and we can, let's say we want to schedule it for tomorrow, it doesn't really matter, and we can confirm it. As I confirm this manufacturing order, Odoo has noticed that two components are missing. So we have here the base of the house and the side panels of the house that are missing and that need to be manufactured first in separate manufacturing orders. You can see these child manufacturing orders here from the MO smart button. If I go into these child demos, I see I have to make 1 unit of my base and 4 units of the side panels. So let's start with that, right? So imagine here I'm going to start with my base assembly over here. If I indicate that I've started working on this manufacturing order, I can just click that start button over here. You see that the status of my MO has moved to in progress. And as I work on this assembly, I can say that I have consumed, let's say, so far 2 components. And I can also register my time, right? So to do that, I can just go to my operation over here, and I can timesheet the time that I have spent on that work order, and add this workstation over here. So here I'm going to select the employee. So let's say I'm Alex, and out of the 300 minutes that I need to spend on this manufacturing order, so far I have spent just 100, right? So I can register that like that. So this was for the base assembly, and then let's say that someone else is going to work on the side panel manufacturing order over here. They can, let's say, they say, okay, so far we are in the process of building 3 units, and again, let's say we have here this time, let's say Julie, who has also spent, let's say, 200 minutes on this assembly so far. Right, so this time the components have been consumed automatically. I have consumed 9 out of the 12 wood panels that I needed over here, and my work order registers a real duration of 200 minutes. Right, so now let's say that it's the end of the month, and I want to register the work in progress for these ongoing productions, or for any ongoing productions for that matter. So the way it's going to work is that either you can work directly from here, but let's say we are in the main list view of our manufacturing orders. We can select all of the manufacturing orders that are in progress. And then here, there's a new action in the view that asks you if you want to post the WIP. So as you click that, Odoo is going to bring up that pop-up, which it will split into 3 sections. It's going to look for all of these manufacturing orders, all of the material costs that you have consumed. It's going to look at all of the labor, which is going to split in a separate labor entry over here. And then it's going to create a total entry here for the sum of the two, as we have coded before, for the WIP. Note that these accounts are configurable from the accounting settings so that they can be predefined and they don't have to be re-registered every time. But if you want, you can change them as you like. You can also change the value. You can also change the text that is written over here. Let's say this is your WIP for October, right? So you can change whatever you want. And then very importantly, we have the date. So here, imagine we are the 31st of October, then we would write that date over here. And by default, whenever you set a date, Odoo will set a reversal date for the next date. Why? Is because the WIP, we actually are only very interested in measuring it for the value in our balance sheet at that moment in time, right? But when I'm going to register the WIP for the 31st of November, I want to start with a clean WIP, and therefore it will be important for us to have reverted that initial entry. I'll show you how this works just now. So here, everything seems fine. I can post my WIP. So how does this look like in the accounting module? So here, if I go to my accounting module and I go to my balance sheet, I see here in my current assets section that indeed I have a WIP entry that has been created here of $1,816.67 for that period. And so it's all good. My accounting for the period is correct. I've registered my WIP, and that's it. It's the end of the story. So we are going to go into another use case in a bit, but first I want to show you the entry that has not been posted yet. So here, if we go to all of the journal entries, we see that this is the entry that is here. And for reporting purposes, we also added a link to the manufacturing orders from which that entry was created, so that if you wanted to verify the value, let's say, or just know from where it has been posted, you have that link over here, right? And so since I want to continue the example, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select that journal entry here. That journal entry is the reversal journal entry of the one we have just created. That is here. And just because I want to empty my WIP and restart with a clean WIP for my next period, I'm just going to decide to post it now. But otherwise, Odoo has a scheduled action in the general settings that runs once a day, looks at all of the draft journal entries, looks at the date, and if the date is the date of the action, then it would have posted it automatically. Now I'm just going to imagine that we were the 3rd of October and that I'm posting it myself. So that when I go back to my balance sheet, my WIP is now clean. All right, so now let's continue, right? So now it gets interesting. I'm going to go to my manufacturing order, and now imagine that I have finished these production orders over here. I can confirm that I have consumed everything and produced that first base assembly. And then I can go to the side panel and I can do the same. Everything has been consumed and produced, and that's it, right? So now we are back to the tiny house manufacturing order. You see that all of the components are now available in stock. I can start working on that MO. And yeah, so let's do it. Let's say that we are now doing the first process. So the base assembly has been done. And then here, because I configured my BOM like that, the marking has done of that operation has consumed automatically a series of materials here in my manufacturing order. But I can also just manually consume additional materials over here, right? And now, if you want, you can decide to post your WIP for that manufacturing order from the form view as well. Again, same thing as before. And Odoo calculates a value of $5,796.67. But you might ask, like, okay, so that value is a bit magical, you know, it's come out of nowhere. You might want to audit it a little bit. So how do you do that? Well, with version 18, we have updated the manufacturing overview, the manufacturing order overview, so that the real cost column over here, which is the column on the right, is now the real cost of your manufacturing order at any time t. So you see, in total, we still have the ammo cost column, which is what you plan to spend for that manufacturing order once everything has been done. But now this real cost column is actually computed based on what has actually been consumed. So we see we have consumed this component over here, we have consumed this component, this one, this one. We haven't consumed any of these over here, which is why the cost is still at zero. And here in terms of operations, we have currently spent $880 out of the $2,440 that we wanted to spend. And the total is the same as what the WIP entry was suggesting us, which is about $5,767, right? And so if we want, we can just now, we are happy with the WIP that Odoo has created, and we can just decide to post our WIP manually like that. And again, if I go to my accounting module and I check my my balance sheet, I see that my work in progress value here has been updated for my period. So if I go to the period before, of course, it's not going to be there. If I go in the period here, it's going to be there, and so on. So you now have a very easy, auditable way to register your work in progress for your ongoing productions. I hope this was clear, but that's all I had to share with you today. So I'm now available for a Q&A if there are any questions on the pad. Thank you.
Let me get the microphone.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, Mathieu. Very good talk. We have quite some questions here.
Well, okay.
The first one is, could you remind what's the difference between the unit cost and the real cost in the material overview, or the bill of material overview?
Okay, so the question is, what is the difference between the unit cost
and the general cost, the total cost?
And the total cost? Well, the real cost is simply the unit cost of your material times the number of units that you have consumed, because it's actually using the unit cost on the product form. There is a slight difference with the ammo cost, though. So the ammo cost, it's the actual cost related to that manufacturing order. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that the side assembly, the unit cost on the product form, it says $500. This is what you plan to spend on that product. But let's say that just in our example, the trigger of the main manufacturing order for the tiny house created another manufacturing order for the for that product, because you didn't have it in stock. And so Odoo is going to check what you actually spent on that manufacturing order, and is going to compare to the real cost, because the real cost is going to be the accounting cost, what is actually going to be registered in the books. But for your own purposes, as a reporting, you'll be able to say, okay, it should be 500, but actually if I look at the actual manufacturer that was created for my tiny house, I see that it was more or less, so that you can compare, see if you are higher or below, and perhaps, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. There's another question asking, how do you add, well, I'm assuming it's saying, how do you add landed costs to, like, the transport to subcontractors and back to the work in progress?
So you cannot add landed cost to the work in progress, but you can add, well, first of all, you can only add a landed cost to a manufacturing order or any picking that has been done. anyways. So here, since we're talking about WIP, we're only considering manufacturing orders that have not been closed yet. So in this scenario, landed cost is not really applicable.
Another question is a bit more complex. Aren't you double the counting materials because it's posted as work in progress on balance sheet, but the components are only booked upon completion of the MO, and are therefore still on the balance sheet as well?
Well, not really, because so as you've seen from the WIP entries that I was creating, the value of the WIP actually comes from for the components from the stock valuation account. So it's a balance between, so we are crediting the stock valuation for the value of the material, and we are debiting the same value in the WIP account. And since the entries are auto-reversed in the next period, automatically you never have twice the value in your books, because the next day when the WIP entry is reverted, the value of the components goes back to stock and the value of the WIP goes back to zero. So in that sense, you should always be fine.
Which brings us to the next question, asking why is WIP reversed and not posted as cost of goods sold when the MO is completed?
Why is it reversed? Oh, okay, so you want to create a WIP entry when well, yeah, it's because we don't compute WIP that way. How do you say? Yeah, it's just, for us, WIP is really just the ongoing production, and once you are done with your manufacturing orders, anyways, there will be a cost layer associated to your MO, so that if you do post the COGS for that MO, let's say when you deliver the product to your customer, the COGS will be accurate, but as long as the product is in your stock, we don't consider that as a COGS until then.
Okay. Another question is on the action that you showed to post the work in progress journals. Who is supposed to do this action? Is it the accountant, or? And then the question continues: why not adding these on action on the accounting module?
So it's a very good question. Actually, we initially wanted to add it in the accounting module, but it's just more flexible here in the manufacturing order view. It's true that it's an action that is dedicated to the accountants, but note that similar actions already exist today in the sales and purchasing module, which are called the accrued expense. And so here we just wanted to keep it consistent. For those who don't know it, the accrued expenses is the value of components. It's the difference between the goods that have been received or invoiced or delivered and not invoiced in sales orders. So it's also a sort of WIP that can be recorded individually as a batch. And so this is why we wanted to also, do a similar behavior. And also, I think it's interesting to do it from the manufacturing module, because as I showed you, it's easy to audit it with the info from the MO overview. So for that reason, I think it makes sense to have it there.
If I can add a little bit on the question, is there any access right that allows only the administrator to do it, or the users can also use the action?
Actually, that's a good question. At the moment, it's an action that is available to users as well if they have access to the accounting module. But we could adapt it if needed.
Okay, another one, we're running out of time, but when scaling this example, so 100 employees working on 4 tiny houses, how do you suggest we register the worked hours and progress?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. When scaling this example, for example, having 100 employees working on 4 tiny houses, how do you suggest that we register the worked hours and progress? Because you showed manually how to add lines.
Yeah.
So how would you suggest that 100 employees would register their time?
For me, I would do it the same way. So there's several ways to record time in manufacturing orders. Either you use the start and stop of the work orders, and this registers times automatically. Or you do it as I did, which is very similar to a timesheet entry in the project module today. You create a new line, you add your name and the time you spent, and that's it.
I think that the confusion is that the workers themselves are going to create each line, so you don't have to create 100 lines yourself, right?
Sorry?
Each employee, each worker will add their own line of timesheet.
That's it. Yeah, so each employee will timesheet on the MO. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a report to see the WIP balance per manufacturing order as per end of the month and for the previous months?
No, but we're thinking of adding it. Here I showed you that there is a link between the journal entry and the MO, but we are thinking of adding a smart button on the MO as well, so that when the WIP is posted, you'll be able to just have that reference, and you can say I posted X at that date, Y at that date, for the next update.
I think these questions are for other talk. If it's possible to make consumptions with barcode in the shop floor,
Yeah.
yes. Are movements lines with quantity 0 still present in the end of production? If so, it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure if he's talking about the work in
Oh.
progress. Sorry. Okay. Can two work in progress entries for the same MO be posted on the same day if there are updates on the MO after the first posting?
Yes, but in that case, I would advise to revert the initial one, because otherwise, in that case, you would indeed be posting it twice.
What is the counter account for the labor work in progress? It should be some kind of recovered labor account.
What is the?
The reverse, when you reverse the work in progress, what is the account that is heated?
So the current account that we use for WIP, also you mean the overhead part of the WIP entry at the moment, we use the cost of production account, which is the counterpart account that we currently use for the entries that we do for work order time in general. Yeah, that's it. But you can configure what you want when you when you go into the WIP settings. In the accounting module, there is one section for the overhead and one section for the WIP, and you can set whatever you want. But by default, we take the one that we take the cost of production account. And if you're using real-time accounting, it will use the one that you set yourself for the cost of production account in the accounting settings.
Okay, we reached the end. Thank you very much, Mathieu.
Thank you. Go for it.